A four-time Super Bowl champion, the NFL's 2014 Comeback Player of the Year, and arguably the greatest tight end in league history. Rob Gronkowski has officially retired after 11 seasons in the NFL, and throughout his Hall of Fame career, he's given us some of the greatest memories and some of the worst as well. But that's what made him Gronk. Here's the career timeline of Rob Gronkowski. The 2010 NFL Draft. After missing his entire junior season at Arizona due to back surgery, Rob's draft stock plummeted from a guaranteed first rounder to being mocked late in the second round. It was kinda shocking to see his stock fall because in just 2 seasons at Arizona, he held almost every tight end record for the Wildcats at the time. Fast forward to draft day when the New England Patriots drafted him 42nd overall after trading up with the Oakland Raiders. And in the days following the draft, it was revealed in an interview that Patriots head coach Bill Belichick had Rob Gronkowski rated as the best all-around player in the entire draft, and boy was he right. His rookie season, 2010. By the time the 2010 season rolled around, Rob had now fully recovered from his back surgery and was ready to show everyone that he was still an elite tight end. In his NFL debut against the Cincinnati Bengals, he caught his first career touchdown from Tom Brady, the first of many. And over the course of the season, Brady and Gronkowski's connection grew week after week, reaching the pinnacle in week 10 when they connected on 3 touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He finished his rookie season with 42 receptions for 546 receiving yards and a rookie tight end record of 10 touchdowns. And of course, the Patriots won the AFC East and made the playoffs. So in Rob Gronkowski's postseason debut against the New York Jets, he racked up 4 receptions for 65 yards and a shocking 28-21 upset in the divisional round. Year 2. 2011. After a pretty good rookie season, year 2 will become legendary when Rob absolutely dominated opposing defenses all season, totaling 10 games with more than 5 receptions, 6 games with more than 100 receiving yards, and 7 multi-touchdown games. This was also the season that he earned his famous nickname, Gronk, after frequent trips to the end zone allowed him to showcase his ball spike and touchdown celebration, and it was dubbed by fans as the Gronk Spike. He ended the season with 90 receptions for 1,327 receiving yards and 18 total touchdowns, breaking the record for the most receiving yards and touchdowns by a tight end in NFL history. Another fun fact about this amazing season for Gronk was the fact that his 17 receiving touchdowns led the league, and this was a feat a tight end had never accomplished before. He even had more touchdowns than the entire 2011 St. Louis Rams team, which shows you just how amazing of a season this was for him. Obviously, he was voted to his first Pro Bowl and first team All-Pro, and if you ask me, he should have been awarded the 2011 Offensive Player of the Year award as well, instead of Drew Brees, who was robbed by Aaron Rodgers for the MVP award. Heading into the playoffs, the Patriots dismantled the Denver Broncos 45-10, thanks to Gronkowski tying an NFL postseason record for the most receiving touchdowns when he hauled in 3 to go along with 10 receptions and 145 yards. Gronk alone had more catches than the entire Broncos team due to the team's terrible quarterback play from Tim Tebow. The following week in the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens, Rob Gronkowski suffered a high ankle sprain and yet still managed to finish the game with 5 receptions for 87 yards and a 23-20 win to advance to Super Bowl 46. In that Super Bowl, Gronk was dealing with his ankle injury still, but he wasn't going to let that stop him from playing. Sadly, he was largely a non-factor in the game because of it, finishing the game with only 26 yards on 2 receptions, his lowest output of the entire season, as the Patriots were upset by the New York Giants 21-17. Year 3, 2012. On the heels of the greatest tight end season in NFL history, the Patriots rewarded Gronk with a 6-year, $54 million contract extension, keeping the Brady and Gronkowski duo together through 2019. And once the season started, the duo picked up right where they left off, as the two were absolutely dominating together until week 11 against the Indianapolis Colts, when Gronk broke his left forearm late in the 4th quarter during an extra point. He missed the next month and returned to practice in week 15, but wasn't activated until week 17 against the Miami Dolphins, where he scored another touchdown to become the first tight end in NFL history to score 10 touchdowns in 3 consecutive seasons. In the playoffs, Gronkowski re-injured his forearm in the first few plays of the Patriots' first playoff game against the Houston Texans, and after getting surgery, he was ruled out for the remainder of the postseason. And over the course of the offseason, things only got worse for Rob Gronkowski. Year 4, 2013. After receiving surgery to repair his forearm, Rob was diagnosed with an infection and was forced to undergo another 2 procedures on his left arm, bringing the total to 4 in less than 6 months. But the surgeries didn't stop there. In June, he underwent a back surgery which forced him to miss the first 6 weeks of the 2013 season, and upon his return, he recorded 3 100-yard games over the next 6 weeks, showing that his injuries were a thing of the past. But sadly, in a Week 14 game against the Cleveland Browns, Gronk suffered a major right knee injury after a big hit by Brown safety TJ Ward, and it was later discovered that he had torn his ACL and MCL, which prematurely ended the 2013 campaign. And in only 7 games, Gronkowski produced 39 receptions for 592 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. Year 5, 2014. Now fully recovered from his knee injury, the Patriots held him on a snap count for half the season to get him back up to full strength slowly until Week 8, when he had a breakout performance against the Chicago Bears, hauling in 9 receptions for 149 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 51-23 victory. A few weeks later, he became the first tight end in NFL history to record 10 touchdowns in 4 separate seasons, as he finished Year 5 with 82 receptions for 1,124 receiving yards, 12 touchdowns, reclaiming his crown as the best tight end in the NFL after another Pro Bowl and first team All-Pro selection. He was also named the 2014 NFL Comeback Player of the Year at the 2015 ESPYs Award Show. And in the playoffs, Gronk hauled in 7 receptions for 108 yards and a touchdown as the Patriots beat the Baltimore Ravens 35-31. The following week in the AFC Championship, he was held relatively quiet against the Indianapolis Colts as the Patriots cruised to a 45-7 victory to advance to Super Bowl 49. In the Super Bowl, Gronkowski bounced back in a big way, and his 6 receptions for 68 yards was instrumental in the Patriots beating the Seattle Seahawks 28-24 to win his first Super Bowl. Year 6, 2015. After the greatest achievement of his football career to date, Gronkowski was able to stay healthy and continued his dominant ways. He kicked off the 2015 season, scoring 3 of the Patriots' 4 touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers, just one shy of the team record set by Randy Moss years prior. And a fun fact about this game was that he also became the first player with multiple 3-touchdown games against the Steelers. Fast forward a couple weeks, as Gronk was on an absolute tear, racking up 34 receptions for 533 yards and 6 touchdowns through the first 6 weeks. And overall, this was another great season for Rob, as he racked up 72 receptions for 1,176 yards and 11 touchdowns. But the playoffs are where he truly shined. And in the divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs, he caught 7 passes for 83 yards, 2 touchdowns. The next week, in a loss, Gronkowski led all receivers with 8 receptions for 144 yards and a touchdown. He would have had the game-tying touchdown as well to send the game to overtime. The Patriots were able to convert 2-point conversion. Year 7, 2016. At this point in Gronk's career, he was arguably the most famous non-quarterback in the entire league and was starting to reap the fruits of his labor off the field as well. And in 2016, he continued to be the best red zone threat in the entire NFL. And it all led up to Week 8 versus a division rival Buffalo Bills. In this game, Gronk scored his 68th career receiving touchdown, which broke the Patriots franchise record set by Stanley Morgan in 1989, submitting himself as the greatest tight end in Patriots history. But after this legendary feat, Gronkowski would sustain a chest injury in Week 10 against the Seahawks that would force him to miss the following game. And once he returned in Week 12, he would receive a completely different back injury that required surgery to repair a herniated disc, prematurely ending his 2016 campaign. But on a positive note, the Patriots went on to win Super Bowl 51 in his absence, awarding him with his second Super Bowl victory of his career. Year 8, 2017. After another long offseason of rehab, Gronk was good to go by the start of the regular season, and boy did Brady miss him after an offseason receiving corps overhaul. And one thing you can say about Gronk at this point in his career is if he can stay healthy, you know he's gonna ball, and that's exactly what he did in 2017. He went on to break another franchise record, this time for the most multi-receiving touchdowns in Patriots history with 16, surpassing the Hall of Famer Randy Moss. The following week against Buffalo, he had a controversial play with Bills Pro Bowl corner Tre'Davious White, and it ended with White sustaining a concussion after being elbowed in the back of the head by Gronk. And after the game, the NFL decided to suspend him for his wrongdoing, forcing him to miss the team's Week 14 matchup versus the Miami Dolphins. But upon his return, he caught 9 passes for a career-high 168 yards. And the best part about this game was the fact that he had caught 3 consecutive passes for 70 yards on the game-winning drive to lead the Patriots to a 27-24 victory over the Steelers. To put a bow on this season, he finished the year with 69 receptions for 1,084 yards and 8 touchdowns to become the 3rd tight end in NFL history to achieve 1,000 yards in 4 separate seasons, joining Tony Gonzalez and Jason Witten. Heading into the playoffs, the Patriots squared off against the Tennessee Titans in the divisional round, and in this game, Gronk had a pretty normal game to his standards when he hauled in 6 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown as the Patriots cruised to a 35-14 victory. The following week, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he sustained a concussion on a 21-yard reception and never returned to the game. Tom Brady was able to pull through as the Patriots advanced to yet another Super Bowl, and during the Super Bowl, Gronk had 116 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, but sadly, it wasn't enough as he failed to catch a Hail Mary in the closing seconds to be upset by the Philadelphia Eagles 33-41. Year 9, 2018. During the offseason, the Patriots agreed to a trade that would send Gronkowski to the Detroit Lions, but the tight end later said that he threatened to retire if he was traded, so the deal ultimately fell through, and after squashing his beef with Bill Belichick, he started the 2018 season with 7 receptions for 123 yards and a touchdown in the opening game against the Houston Texans. And while this was a great game for him, the most noteworthy thing was the fact that he fumbled for the first time in his near decade-long career. And after this happened, everyone should have realized that he wasn't his usual self. But sadly, it took the remainder of the season for everyone to realize that his production had fell off a cliff from the previous season, as he only had 47 receptions for 682 yards and a measly 3 touchdowns. His lowest output since his rookie season when fully healthy. In the playoffs, he wasn't needed versus the Chargers, as Brady did all the work and led them to a 41-28 victory. But in the AFC Championship game against the young superstar Patrick Mahomes, Brady depended on his number 1 target nearly every 3rd down, as Gronk hauled in 6 receptions for 79 yards in a 37-31 overtime victory to advance to yet another Super Bowl. And during arguably the most boring Super Bowl of all time, he finished the game with 87 receiving yards and set the record for the most catches and yards by a tight end in Super Bowls with 23 catches for 297 yards as they won 10-3, and he received his 3rd Super Bowl ring. Initial retirement, 2019. On March 24th, 2019, Rob Gronkowski announced his retirement after 9 seasons in the NFL. He stated that his mental health was suffering due to all the injuries he was forced to deal with on a daily basis. But little did we know, something big was brewing. Year 10, 2020. On the heels of Tom Brady joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on April 21st of 2020, the New England Patriots traded the rights to Rob Gronkowski to the Buccaneers in exchange for a 4th-round pick. The trade reunited the longtime duo after Brady demanded he wouldn't join the team without Gronkowski as his tight end. And over the course of the 2020 season, he was relatively a shell of his former self and was really only deployed for big-time moments and big-time games, as the team had other serviceable tight ends and didn't want to wear him out. So in the playoffs, in the NFC Championship game in Green Bay, Gronk caught a critical 29-yard catch to set up a field goal to send the Bucs to the Super Bowl. And in the Super Bowl, he caught 2 touchdown passes from Brady to break the record for the most touchdowns by a quarterback-receiver duo in playoff history at 14. Gronk also became the first player in NFL history to catch a touchdown in 5 separate Super Bowls. The last ride, 2021. After returning to the game a year prior, Gronk was now a 4-time Super Bowl champion, and with the entire Buccaneers roster returning, he was hoping to make it 5 after signing a 1-year, $10 million contract to remain on the team. And the reason he initially retired in 2019 came back to haunt him when in a Week 3 game against the LA Rams, he took a massive hit that resulted in multiple fractured ribs and a punctured lung, and this injury sidelined him for the next 7 weeks. And upon his return, he played the last great football of his career when he produced back-to-back 100-yard, multi-touchdown games to place himself and Tom Brady's second all-time in regular season quarterback-receiver duo touchdowns with 92, behind only Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. Retirement, 2022. On June 21st of 2022, Rob Gronkowski announced his retirement from the NFL for a second time, finishing his amazing career with 621 receptions, 9,286 yards, and 93 total touchdowns. He was also a 4-time Super Bowl champion, a 4-time first-team All-Pro, a 5-time Pro Bowler, and the NFL's 2014 Comeback Player of the Year. Gronkowski was one of, if not the greatest tight end of all time, and he will forever be remembered for being Tom Brady's right-hand man. Let me know down in the comment section if you believe Gronkowski is the greatest tight end of NFL history. Thank you all for watching, and I'm out.